Michael Kramer, President of PBA 122 here in Gloucester County, representing the
Michael.
members of West Deptford. Governor, I respect and admire your in-your-face government and transparency. However, I've listened to a number of your speeches, and I've never once heard you say that you were going to replace the money that Governor Whitman stole from us. And she said borrow, and I say borrow because, I say steal because she has never, no politician, is Republican or Democrat, has ever replaced the money that they took. And now you're looking to balance the budget on the men and women of the police departments, fire departments, and the teachers, okay?
Yep.
And that money has never been replaced. And that's part of the reason why we're upset and we feel betrayed.
Sure.
Can you please answer this, sir?
Sure I can. Listen, I'd love to send a bill to Whitman, McGreevey, Cody, and Corzine. I can't. And I'd love to be able to replace the money that was not put in there, but I have no place to get it from. I mean, you know, let's take, for instance, the millionaire's tax that they talked about last year. The millionaire's tax would raise a total of $600 million. Total. We're talking about a pension payment, just an annual pension payment of $3 billion. $3 billion, that's what the annual pension payment's supposed to be. Now, so I can't get the money back. I'd love to get the money back for you, but I can't.
But I don't think the majority of the public knows that that money was stolen.
Right, but let me tell you this. If every dollar had been put in, if that money hadn't been taken, do you know where we'd be right now? Right now, we're at 64% funding overall in the system. We'd be at 75% funding.
We're at 98 of them.
You were, but a couple of things happened. One, more officers are retiring and taking more out. Two, the stock market went down. Now the stock market's starting to come back up. So that will help to do something a little bit. And third, the contributions being made by the majority of the people in the pension system, and I opt police and fire out of this because they've been paying at 8.5%, as I said before. Right, we're not paying enough. And that's why, by the way, in my plan, I didn't propose to raise the contribution from police and fire in the state, because police and fire are making the highest contribution in the country, and they've been making it for a long time. So I'm saying move the teachers and the other people from 5.5 to 8.5, and move the judges from 3 to 8.5 to help to make up some of that gap. The problem is that even when you do all that, the pensions are still too rich. We'd go, if we paid every dollar in, we'd be from 64 to 75%. We can't continue in that way. And when you look at what we're talking about here, what we're talking about is, first off, the 62 to 65 would not affect police officers, okay, first. Because I'm not looking to have 65-year-old police officers running down the street, or even 62-year-old police officers running down the street, for the most part. Second, on the 9% increase, everybody knows we should have never done it. And my proposal says I'm not taking the 9% back retroactively that you've already earned, it's going forward. Third, we're talking about the increased payments by the individuals. That doesn't apply to police officers and firefighters. Fourth are the COLAs. Fact of the matter is, we can't afford at the moment to continue to pay every year a higher and higher pension payment every year that you're retired. That COLA is especially difficult with police officers and firefighters, as you know, because they retire much earlier. So we're paying them for much longer, and that COLA really makes a difference. So I understand, and like I said to the firefighters in Wildwood, I understand why you're angry about what government has done before, but here's where I'm at. If we don't do these things, it's gonna go broke. And it could be broke by 2020. We're not talking about a short time from now. We're talking about 9 years from now. So while I understand the anger at those past politicians who took money and did not put money in, I don't know where I go. You're Michael, right? Michael, I don't know where I go.
I just get angry that you don't ever tell the public that,
Go ahead.
It was 98% and now it's at 63%, and the majority of that is because Christie Whitman stole a vast amount of our money and never repaid it.
Listen, if the Whitman, listen, I have said that before. You haven't heard it, but I have said it before. And again, we're only talking, and I don't want to make this like it's only, because it's a huge amount of money, but it's only would have taken us from 64 to 75. But it would have made a difference, but we would still be in almost the same spot, Michael. We'd still have to be making changes. So here's what I've said, and I've said this to police officers, to firefighters, to teachers. Like, here's the choice. If we don't do it, it's going to go broke. And I don't want police officers, firefighters, teachers who've committed themselves to public service, who have earned a pension, to wake up one morning and have it not be there. So now we got to decide. The state got shafted by bad decisions, not only by governors, but by the legislatures that let them do it. Because the governors can't do this stuff by themselves. Take my word for it. They have to have accomplices in crime. And the legislature, is more anonymous than the governors are, but they participated too, and both parties participated. So now the decision has to be, what do we do to fix it? I mean, I could sit here, the easiest thing in the world for me to do, Michael, and I'd get reelected in a walk, is just to say, don't worry about it. I had a friend of mine, who said to me, so when might it go broke? And I said, 2020. And he said, well, if you get 2 terms, you're out by 2017. The hell are you doing? You're banging your head against the wall. Let the next guy worry about it. That's how we got where we are. Every governor's waiting, right? So, yeah. But, and that having been said, right, and that having been said, this is not about assigning blame. What this is about sharing the sacrifice to solve it. And I wish that I could wave a magic wand to make it go away and take it back to 1999, when you were at 98%. But the one acknowledgement that I have made in the plan I put forward to what has happened to police officers and firefighters is to not to ask for any increased contribution. Is to say, listen, you guys have already been putting in at the highest level. I'm not going to ask you to increase. I'm going to ask the others to increase who I think have been underpaying. So, there is some sense, even though you may not feel it at the moment. Well, listen, we could talk about why Tony and I haven't sat down, but I had one thing I asked Tony to do, to sit down with me, and Tony won't do it because he's a little bit too proud, a little bit too stubborn. But I'm happy to sit down with them, but I haven't asked for an increase for when you can retire from 25 years. And the reason I haven't asked for it is because I want the very best, the most alert, the most in shape police officers and firefighters to be on the street. And I have always said, and I said this during the campaign, that police officers and firefighters are in a unique position because they put their lives on the line every day for us. They leave home in the morning, they don't know if they're going to be able to come home or not. And we need to have, in the main, younger people doing that job. And that means you're going to have to retire earlier. So I've tried to acknowledge by not in the plan going after, not trying to move that up to 30 years and out or whatever else, and by not raising the contribution, an acknowledgement of that. So you're going to be able to retire in 25 years, but when you do, I want you to be able to collect a pension for the rest of your life. And if we don't do this stuff, Michael, I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to. And then some governor's going to be standing here 10 years from now saying to you, well, it didn't happen before, and I wish I could do something different, but I can't. We're kind of like at the last moment here to fix this thing before the car goes off the cliff. And I don't want the car to go off the cliff, so I'm putting my political career at risk to say we can't do that. Now, in 3 years, guys at the PBA and the FOP and the FMBA can say, the hell with you, we're going to vote for somebody else who's going to tell us, right? Well, I mean, in 3 years, you can say, well, listen, I'm going to vote for somebody else because they're telling me that they're not going to do this stuff to me or the stuff that I did was bad. I'll have to live with that. But what I won't live with is sitting off in my retirement somewhere watching police officers and firefighters and teachers in New Jersey not get their pension and know that I contributed to that problem. I'm not going to live with that on my conscience, so let's work together to try to get it done the right way. Thanks.